Today on Happy Cooking with Yvonne Douglas, we're going to talk about kitchen utensils today. That's right, we're going to talk about just your basics, what every cook should have in their kitchen. And we're also going to talk about some pots and pans and some baking ware. So stay tuned. So today we're going to talk about basic kitchen utensils and things that you need in your kitchen, especially if you are a new cook to the kitchen. Hopefully these things will help you out. I don't have every single kitchen utensil there is out there, but I do have a lot, and one thing, I'm really blessed to have a large kitchen with a lot of storage. If you don't, then I'm going to really focus on the main things that you should have. And we're going to start out with just cutting boards. So cutting boards, you really should have two. You should have a very large one, and you should have a small one. Now, I have a plastic one that is commercial grade. This one is really good for chicken, cutting up chicken, meats. This one is a wooden one. I highly suggest you get a wooden one. And the wooden one can be used for vegetables, could be used for anything really. But the main thing is that you take good care of it. So that means you do not leave it in the dishwasher, or you do not put it in the dishwasher. You do not leave it in soaking water. So you really have to take good care of your boards. I like to have smaller ones too, maybe for vegetables or smaller items to cut up. So that's what these are for. So I have a small wooden one and I have a small kind of like plastic one. All right, so those are your wooden boards, super important. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about are baking pans. And so I have three here. These are actually the Rachel Ray brand, and these are really, really nice. So these are non-stick, very cool to have three. So you want a really large one, medium size, and a small one. These are good, of course, for baking cookies, or it has many different uses, so definitely keep that in mind. You want the ones that have the lip going around, so keep that in mind. I also have some flat cooking pans here, trays I should say, that I had these for years already, and these are really cool, once again, for cookies. So you don't have to grease your pan. Get this is called Silpat. Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. You never have to grease your pan or anything, and it's so easy to use. Nothing sticks to it and very easy to clean. So I have two of those. You also want a muffin tin or a cupcake tin or tray to put it in your oven. Very important to use that, especially if you want to make cupcakes. And another thing that's super important is this drying rack. This drying rack is awesome. When you're done with your cookies and you have to take them off the tray, place them on here. Okay, so we have some more tools. This is really important for lemon zesting or orange zesting. This is a zester. Super, super important that you get one of these. You can use a smaller version like a grater like this. I've used this before, but the lemon zester I think is it's better because it's longer and you can really go around your lemon or your orange easily. Another thing is a lemon squeezer, super important to squeeze out lemon juice from a lemon or orange from an orange, and also that it holds the pits so you don't have any pits. You can do that over a strainer like this. I've used these before for something like that, but it's important to have a small one and a larger one. Some other types of strainers are these. This is a really large one. This is good for when you have a really large pan or pot and you're trying to scoop something out of it. Very important. And this is a Chinese strainer. I really like these too. These are great for like if you're frying, like for instance, if I was making Hungarian forgacsfang and I needed to scoop those out of the oil, this would be very, very handy. So those are some strainers that you may want for your kitchen, and some different types of tools. This one also is important. I almost forgot about this. This is your thermometer. This is good for candy when you need to know the temperature of if you're making candy, or like when I did anything with oil. Very important. You just hook it onto the pot and place it in there. Very easy to use. And this is a meat thermometer. Meat thermometer is super important when you're cooking, let's say a turkey or maybe a roast, and you need to check the temperature. So very important you get one of those too. And we'll be back. Okay, some additional baking important tools you'll need. One is a rolling pin. Very important you have a rolling pin, especially when you do some baking. And you also need some measuring cups. So this is a really large one. This one is good for liquid measurement. I actually have a smaller one. These, I have two sets of measuring cups. One is for dry ingredients, one is for liquid ingredients. So I have a stainless steel one, very important. They have the cup, the half cup, the fourth cup, and the third. Same thing with this red. This is from KitchenAid, I believe. And so it's very important to have two. So those are super important. You also need measuring spoons. I have two sets of that. Very important, I think, that you do have two sets. This is stainless steel, and this one is, again, the plastic one. And it's just, you know, if you're using, let's say you're using the tablespoon and it's liquid, and then you need to do a tablespoon of dry, well, it's good to have the other one prepared. Okay, so another important tool, and you've probably seen me use this on some of my shows, meat mallet. Meat mallet is super important. You want to, this is for banging meat and making them thinner, tenderizing them. Super important that you have a meat mallet. A vegetable steamer, wow, this is super important too, especially if you want to make Brussels sprouts. So these are really easy to use. You put them in a small pot with a little water at the bottom. You clean your vegetable, let's say Brussels sprouts, and you place them in there, then you steam cook them for probably like 15-20 minutes or so. Graters are super important. This is a smaller grater. This is good for, like, maybe you want to grate cheese or something like that, or even, like I said, it was okay to use for zesting a lemon. This is another grater, type of grater to have. It's good for grating cheese, very important. And then we have these tools here that I'm going to show you quickly. This one's just a garlic squeezer. This is good for mincing garlic if you want to use one of those. You can buy the minced garlic that's already in a jar. I usually do that just to save some time. But if you want to mince garlic, get a garlic squeezer. Can opener, super important. Oh my gosh, can opener. Every household needs to have a can opener. This is a peeler. This peeler is used for peeling potatoes, peeling vegetables. Super important to have that. Of course, a can. This is a bottle opener. Bottle opener, super important. Pizza cutter. Wow. I mean, you can use a pizza cutter for pizza, cutting pizza, or you can use it even for dough. So super important to use that. Ice cream scoop and a melon baller. Wow. Two important tools to have also in your home, especially if you like ice cream and melons. All right, so when we come back, we're going to talk about some mixing bowls and then talk about some utensils you really should have by your range. So stay tuned. All right, so next we're going to talk about some bowls that you'll need. You don't need a lot of mixing bowls. I say you probably need about 3 to 4 sizes and you should be good. I have some extra, actually I have more in my cupboard over there, but really you just need about 3 to 4. So one thing you'll need, I like the stainless steel bowls. I think they're very awesome to use. They're versatile, easy to clean. So these, I got a large one, medium, and a small. So definitely have those bowls in your home. I think that would be very useful. I like getting a big bowl like this. This bowl is actually so versatile to me. It's ceramic, but I can use this for baking, doing dough. I can use this for even a salad bowl, to put a salad in there. I just love this bowl. This is one of my favorite bowls. And I believe I got this at Target too, so it's heavy too. Another thing is you might want a bowl that's kind of like in a pouring, that you can pour things out of. This is great for maybe making, you know, like gravy, or you could do batter for a pancake or something like that. So this bowl is really cool to use, and this is melamine. I kind of like melamine. And then, I can't forget this. This is a strainer. Strainer is good for straining pastas, of course. After you cook the pasta, you want to put it in a strainer. You want to rinse your pasta And then this is also good for vegetables too, for cleaning vegetables. This is very versatile. So those are some other things you should have in your kitchen. And now let's talk about kitchen utensils that you should have by your cooking range. So stay tuned. Okay, so as you can see, I have here on display my kitchen utensils. And I love to have them by the range. I know some people don't like a lot of stuff out on their counters, but I feel like when you're cooking, these things are so important to have right there so you can easily grab it instead of looking through it in a drawer or a cabinet. So let's talk about it. In one container I have here, and I like these container holders. I got this on Amazon, kitchen utensils. I keep all my wooden utensils in one container. I think this way they're all there. You have your different utensils here, like your spoons. This is like a risotto spoon, the one with the hole, if you ever wonder about that. This is good for like, this way if you're cooking rice or if you're cooking anything that has vegetables in it or something like that, it's just an easy flow. It'll flow right through the spoon, and this way it won't crush any vegetables or anything like that. So that's called, I think it's called a risotto spoon, I believe. And then we have, this is super important. This is like a little spatula kind of to scrape things. Super important to have a couple of those. And then just different spoons, different sizes for stirring sauces, for stirring vegetables, very important. I also like using the metal ones. I have like metal spoons here too, and I think they're super important. Another thing, wow, a whisk. Definitely important to have a good whisk with a good handle. I have a couple of whisks here. There's one over here and one on this side, so this way I don't have to, you know, if I need one on that side, it's just easy to grab. But I have different whisks. I have two, and I also have, this is such an important tool to have. My gosh, you don't know how many times I've used this. So these are tongs, and tongs are awesome to use because it's good for turning meat. It's good to cook with. You can even scrape a little bit with it in case you need to scrape something off the pan. I have two of them, so my suggestion is to definitely have at least one. I also have some spoon spatulas. This is really good for stirring, again for kind of like scraping. I have plastic ones and I have metal ones. This slotted spoon here, I've used this so many times too. This way any oil or anything can kind of drip through, like if you're making, for instance, bacon, and you want to get that bacon out and you don't want all that grease. So of course you're gonna let it drain on a paper towel, but this kind of helps the grease go through so you don't have to like put a whole bunch of grease in there too, on top of the paper towel, I should say. And then these are like, these are really cool too, just so if I was taking something out of oil, once again, it would drip through. This is a flatter surface. Many different jobs or uses for those. And so I feel like all these are a ladle, very important to have a ladle for gravies or for sauces, spatula, just a regular metal spatula. If you're making an omelet or something like that, oh wow. I use this one so much. This one is really old, but I still love it. I still keep it. This one is one of my favorites. So again, I have, if you can see, let me get the camera here. I think you can see that on camera. I have four, and I actually got these recently, these red ones, because mine were getting pretty full. But just those are some of the basics. You want to have wooden spoons, you want to have tongs, you want to have a whisk, you want to have spatulas, you want to have regular spoons. Even if they're plastic spoons like this, it comes in so handy. It really does. Like if you're putting, getting sauce and you want to put it on top of meat or whatever it is, super important to have. So these are just, like I said, the basics. Another thing, I'm going to get the camera and turn it a little bit so you can see. Knives. It's very important to have knives right here. Basically, you need two knives. These, of course, come in a set, but you need definitely a chef's knife, which is really sharp. You definitely need a chef's knife when you're cooking and making different dishes. You also need what they call a paring knife. paring knife is good for cutting vegetables, anything that's small, so definitely get a paring knife. Those are the two main ones. Also a serrated knife I think is super important that you have a serrated knife. This is good for cutting, like say, tomatoes or cutting bread. Super important to have that. So 2 to 3 knives definitely you should have. The others, you know, it's good to have extra if you can get that. This is a mortar and pestle. I find this super important too. This is a smaller one. I also have a larger one. But if this is good for crushing spices, if you're really, once you get really into cooking and you want to kind of do that, so super important to get a mortar and pestle to crush. It also is good for making like different, just crushing vegetables and crushing, I mean, I used it for, gosh, I mean, I used it for crushing chocolate. I used it for crushing, I mean, so many different things. So definitely think about maybe getting one of those for your kitchen too. So this is just your basics, like I'm emphasizing, really this is the basic stuff. If you're starting out cooking, those are some of the things you should have. There are so many kitchen utensils, and remember each utensil has a specific job, and so keep that in mind for what you want to do. Okay, we have one last thing to talk about, which is some basic pots that you should have in your kitchen. So stay tuned. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about today is different pots and pans you should have. And we're going to start with a crock pot. This is a slow cooker crock pot, super important to have if you want to. I mean, you can put anything in here. I've made queso in here. You can put a chicken in there. You can make stews. You can make, gosh, I mean, so many soups. I mean, so many different things that you can make with using a crock pot. It's a slow cooker. You just turn it on in the morning and let it cook all day. And that's something you may want to think about. And there's many different slow cooking recipes out there, so you might want to think about that. And then the main pots and pans you should have. Definitely have a large skillet with a lid. Lids are super important. It'll cook faster if you have your lid on. And these are non-stick. I like using the non-stick cooking pots and pans here. So this is a large skillet. You also need, this is a small, almost like an omelet kind of skillet. So this, I made like scrambled eggs in here and omelets and different things like that. So crepes. So I would definitely think of a small omelet pan there. And then also a small pot. This is good for sauces, steaming those vegetables. Remember I showed you that vegetable steamer? That's what I used to put that in here. So sauces, those kinds of things. This one too, this one's slightly larger, but this is good for also gravies and also sauces, or cooking even like vegetables, corn, something like that. You need a large pot here. This is a 7-quart pot. You can get 8 to 12 stock pot, which is super important to have. This one is just 7 quarts here, so that's good for if you want to make you know, a chicken, or if you wanted to make a soup, or I've used it for making those, frying things in oil. I mean, many different uses for the large pot, and also make sure that you have a lid with it. And a roasting pan. You definitely want a roasting pan. I like this roasting pan that I have here. This is good for Thanksgiving. Make a turkey on it. Has a little little holder, I should say, to place the turkey. And so definitely get a roasting pan. So these are just your basics, pots and pans. I have different sizes. All my collection has grown over the years, but I think these are really good just to have if you're starting out. And it should be in really every kitchen, these types of pots and pans. So thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate it. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And once again, happy cooking. Bye-bye.